Eliminate aluminum. Odors. Get rid of all the odor-containing things. Treated clothing. It's hard to find non-treated clothing, but real cottons or real silk. Bedding. Use natural soaps and detergent. Use only low VOC paints if you have to paint at all. But those are some things. It's unfortunate Larry had to go home and so forth, because I do tout Larry a lot, and his material is invaluable, just absolutely invaluable. So the intermediate home therapy is I've made a CD called Recursive Harmonic Therapy. And for those of you who are into computers, you'll know that recursiveness is basically what runs computers. And recursiveness for me is not only the repetitiveness of things, but it's everything that I do in my office with my patients in terms of making any technology, or everything's done in what's called Fibonacci ratios. And Fibonacci ratios are basically how many petals are there on the leaf, how many twigs are they coming off the branch. All of that is in a mathematics of nature, which is called basically Fibonacci ratios. And so the Recursive Harmonic Therapy CD that I had a patient visit me from the East Coast in the wintertime. She was frozen to death in New Hampshire. She came to California to see me. She said, I don't care it's storming outside. She said, I want to see the beach. It's 12 below zero and 6 feet of snow in New Hampshire. And she said, take me to the beach. And we went to the beach, and there's this big storm going on, and waves going left and right. And she's walking around. I said, are you done with this beach thing yet? Let's go home. And I heard a sound, and the sound was, and I said, is there a boat out there? Do I see a boat? I hear a boat, but I don't see a boat. And she said, I hear that too. So I used to have a radio show called The Health Detective that was syndicated in about 60 cities. And I called the studio, and I said, can you guys get down here with some ladders and some really sophisticated microphones? Because they said, it's raining outside. I said, yeah, I know, bring some umbrellas. And they came down, they climbed up these ladders, they recorded this, and then they tried to play it back. I said, I don't hear it. I said, don't you have a better microphone? And so after trying several microphones, they finally got to the state, they got a microphone that they could get this thing. We took it back in the laboratory, and you could see this sound, and you could see the water hitting the beach. So we took the background sound, and we moved it forward. We took the forward sound, and we moved it backward. And then we started playing with it. We found that it fixed this acupuncture point right here that has to do with autonomic nervous system balance. And we then started tracking it on a heart rate variability test. Patients would come in, they had too much gas pedal, too little brake. They listen to this for 20 minutes, we'd retest them, and lo and behold, their autonomics were resetting. So we found a forensic sound guy. And we gave him the CD, and we said, can you figure out something about this? And he came back, and he said, no, he said, I didn't find out too much about it. He said, but you know, your sound's kind of interesting. It seems to be the square of the Earth's frequency. I said, excuse me? He said, yeah, it's a square of the Earth's frequency. I said, so like that would be a harmonic of the Earth? He said, yeah, if you want to say it that way. So consequently, what we were hearing that day on the beach was the Earth. You can't hear it at 7 or 8 hertz, but you can hear it when you take that number times itself, you can hear it, and we recorded it. I grew up on an island. I have a large sailboat. I sailed a bunch of parts of the world. I've never, ever, ever heard that sound before, but I have that sound on Recursive Harmonic Therapy CD, and parents will call me and say, my kid didn't want to go to school today. She had a bellyache. She had this. I played that silly CD of yours. Bellyache went away. They went to sleep. They got up the next day and went to school. It is so helpful. I have patients say, you know, they had a hyperactive child and they did nothing but play the CD every night. And they reset the sympathetic parasympathetic for this child. So also the next thing on the intermediate is to supplement with what's called autonomic nervous system balance. It's a spray that I make. My sprays, if you remember the days of the floppy disks that we had to put in our computers, we had to format them before we put information on them. Well, basically, I have formatable solution. And one of the elements of my formatable solution is structured water. There's also another formulation in there, which is a proprietary thing, but my sprays can go through the strongest X-ray and nonsense that they have at the airport, and they're still good on the other side. On 1 to 10, oh, by the way, you can circuss my sprays and they'll even get more powerful. But at the time that I deliver them to the patient, on a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being the best, they're 7 million. And I've checked them a year later and they're 4 million. And I've got something now that will actually bump them to 50 million. I haven't tested those on people yet. I haven't found any family volunteers yet, but I will. I will.
People do it.
Yeah, right. So the autonomic nervous system spray, basically, it used to only be named by a computer code because all my stuff is in my computer and we make it from the computer. So this particular frequency remedy, I usually give at night because everybody goes to sleep with it. Everybody that has a sleep problem, they use it at night and it puts them to sleep. And the only reason people say, I'm sleeping fine, I don't need that anymore. I said, well, it's not really for sleep, it's for resetting your sympathetic, parasympathetic. If a child is hyped during the day, squirt some into their mouth because it will start resetting them. It's a cumulative thing. It's not just about, you know, we gave it to them, it didn't work. No, you continue to give it to them until you get all that stuff to reset. The other is supplement with polarity spray. Polarity spray is basically, if any of you do any energetic testing, and when you use muscle testing on an individual, if you have not checked the polarity from their foot to their head, and their head to their foot, or across their body, and our energy into their arms, when you start to do muscle testing on them, you might as well just be using a cadaver, because the result is like flipping a coin. You've got to have energy in the body you're going to check to be able to figure out what's doing it. Polarity spray does that. Okay, this is just a little blurb on the walking on the stormy beach thing that I told you about. That's a somewhat shiny and poor picture of the recursive harmonic therapy CD, but it's something that is part of the home therapy in an intermediate sense. Now, this is basically a write-up on each one of the sprays, and I pretty much have told you about what they are. And again, you can, you know, I don't suggest you put them in the microwave. Actually, I suggest you take your microwave and turn it into a bookshelf. In any event, don't store them on your computer. Don't store them in your, you know, in the battery compartment of your car or anything. But they're nearly impossible to destroy. So in advanced therapy stuff, because the first couple of things, a CD and some couple of sprays, and it's something that anybody, no matter where they live, can do that. The advanced thing is learn a technique that I'm now beginning to teach to people called two-point. And what I do with two-point is I have a small muscle tester. Some of you may be familiar with some other people that have used it in the past. But to use that little muscle tester, and Doris was sitting next to me tonight, and she was working on it, but there are some very specific rules to its use. One rule is do not recruit your other fingers in trying to find out where your muscle spot is. I have blue ones for women and I have black ones for male. And yes, guess what? Black ones for males have a bigger spring, so all of us big strong guys can use it. But it's amazing. I was with a fellow today that was probably about, how tall was that guy that I went to lunch with today? He was probably about 6'5" and weighed, what, close to 400 pounds. And I showed him how to test himself for a food allergy to grain. Like this guy would be allergic to grain. Could you imagine? And in any event, I was stronger than he was. He couldn't push the thing down. He put that grain on. He was 20 pounds away. Most people are 10 pounds away when they do it. But when you go to test, you have to check the status of your patient. If your patient has no energy in their arms and you're going to try to test that, you're not going to get a right answer. So you've got to get their energy on first by having them use something like a polarity spray or the autonomic nervous system spray or some other things like that to get their system on. But then you can use that to check an allergy point. It's a control measurement point for vol work. And you can then use a rancidity point. something's wrong with this food. It's going to make me sick. It's rancid. But you need to know you're starting with a clear point to begin with. If you check the patient, you find an allergy, 99 times out of 100, you can clear it by just having them hold a lemon in the other hand and you get rid of the allergy. So in any event, you can go through rancidity and chemical foot, which is liver 3. You can use a mold yeast fungal point, which is 3 fingers here, right below the xiphoid. And so you can use that to check a whole lot of things with your patient. I teach a class called Food Defense 101, but the class that I'm going to teach for parents is going to be the food things and also what I call 2-point. And you can see I'm demonstrating it right there, but 2-point is you can check the continuity of the energy down their arms, you can check it in their legs, you can see if they're tracking their anterior body, their posterior body, but it takes a little practice with that. It's not just a matter of selling you a little muscle tester, which you can buy off the internet for $8 or something, because I'm going to give them to you when you take the class and teach you how to integrate it into a technique to where you can become your own doctors for the minor things that you need to do when your budget is off or when I'm available 7 days a week from 8 in the morning till 10 at night by phone. I'm available nearly 24 hours a day on email. And I don't charge for those unless I'm doing it's in place of an office visit. And there are some patients that do kind of abuse it, but they usually get better and they don't abuse it. But the thing of it is that if you could answer a question for yourself at 2 o'clock in the morning with these little tools here, you're going to feel empowered to be able to say, doggone it, Johnny had something bad. How can I fix it? What happens with most of my patients when I start treating them is they start shifting, they start getting better. They call me and they say, he must have had something bad. Well, I said, who gets sick first, the well person or the sick person when you feed them garbage? The sick person doesn't know they ate garbage. They keep it. They don't throw it up. The well person throws it up. That's the mechanism. It should be that way. But when they start going through a detox, they said, he's detoxing. I said, teaspoon of lemon juice every half an hour for 2 hours away from food and water. They said, now let me see if I got that right. That's 30 teaspoons of lemon juice every day? No. It's a teaspoon of lemon juice every half an hour for 2 hours away from food and water. So you mix the lemon juice in the water. No. Well, the thing is, you got to remember, my wife said, you're not going to go in the room with that person. The way they're acting, how in the world? I just tell them the same story over again. Teaspoon of lemon juice every half an hour, 2 hours away from food and water. Finally, they will get it. But the first time you're sick, they'll call me, what do I do? Teaspoon of lemon juice every half an hour for 2 hours away from food and water. Tammy, have I ever told you that one? About 300 times. Yeah,
He's the abuser.
Squeezed lemon is much better than that stuff from the jar, because the stuff from the jar is not real.
It works though when I was in a bind.
Well, there is some organic lemon and lime juice that you can get in the store that will work. Okay?
Because they didn't have
But,
organic lemon.
you know, this is what I say about tuna fish. How long has that dead fish been in that can anyway? Okay? Now that's the same thing about the lemon juice stuff. How long has that lemon been in that jar? So it's best to use the real stuff. You don't have the real stuff, you know, in any event. So the deal is that the mechanism to fix some of this stuff when you find it is not hard. It's easy. Yes, you can't do the big things. We're not expecting you to say, is this nutrition good? Is that nutrition good? Is this good? No, but when you're going to go to the grocery store, take this you know, the world has changed. People don't mind seeing folks over there at the fruit counter doing this. I mean, they're going to ignore you. They're going to figure you're whacked. But who cares? You're never going to see them again anyway. You know?
I think we're wacky anyway.
Yeah, it's true. You don't have to run into these people. I mean, I've lived in San Diego for 35 years. You know how many times I've run into somebody I know? Maybe 4. I mean, you know, maybe 4. You know, and so consequently, this is some technique stuff that you can do, and this 2-point stuff for the doctors when I teach them. Goodness gracious, it's incredible, absolutely incredible what I've been able to do with 2-point.